Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And a good morning at you. It's September 19, a Thursday. And as usual, a plethora, I don't think I've said that in a year or two, a plethora of stories that we can look at. I don't know if major newspapers follow the leader like, local media outlets do. Somebody has a story and everybody else then grabs it. But I do want to note that the story I shared with you yesterday about this invasion of Asian bugs that has now hit eastern Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, that was a front page story in the Wall Street Journal, an infestation that they're worrying about in regards to agriculture more than anything else. Was now a pretty sizable story in the New York Times today, and essentially the Times story breaks down into suggesting that if you're in Philadelphia, what you see as you walk along the sidewalks of that major city are people appearing to dance. They're like stomping. They're stomping their feet. They're making moves. These bugs apparently remind me not to go to Philly anytime soon. These bugs that are called spotted lanternflies are so prolific in Philly in the last few weeks that some people, people who are like freaked out, have a phobia of flying insects, I bet they can't even venture outside because apparently these bugs don't act like some bugs do, which is some bugs avoid flying directly into you. These bugs apparently don't. They just like, bam, hit your face. This one guy says, if it would just leap away, like bugs leap, if it would just leap away, people wouldn't mind it as much, but it seems to always be in your mouth or trying to get in your mouth. Blah. That's why I say I'm just going to hit Philly tourism. I ain't coming. Says even after death, these bugs can still creep people out because when you're walking down the sidewalks, their bodies are crunching under your feet. The state has set up a hotline number, not necessarily for freaked out people, but for anybody citing one of these things, especially if it's like around here, because that would be most unpleasant news. Anyway, 1-888-4-BAD-FLY. 888-4-BAD-FLY. Just so you got it. They're about an inch long, and I don't know what to tell you. It says the bugs can be quite clumsy, flying haphazardly into pedestrians and cars. They have destroyed vineyards in Berks County. Here's a woman who goes to school at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, PA. What I do is zigzag across campus and not trying not to interact with them. They jump. They're big. They're scary. It's like all of your worst nightmares coming to fruition. I'm just saying, because odds are in a year or two, just like, remember we first read about the stink bugs and then bang, they were here. So that apparently is something that is very real and happening. As one of our listeners said, she had been in in the Philly area just last weekend, and she said they were everywhere. God. So, not that that's the biggest story. I think the biggest story is Benjamin Netanyahu lost that election. He lost. He might not acknowledge that yet, but he lost the election. And if he were an honorable man, which he is not, he would concede defeat and step aside. He is not doing that. He is still insisting that he can form a government. By the way, it's unclear whether the guy who supposedly edged him out, Benny Gantz, his name, can form a government either. This is a problem with a tight election in a totally divided country operating under a parliamentary system with a lot of lesser parties needed to form a governing coalition. So what the hell's going to happen? Who knows? Netanyahu is trying desperately to try to get the guy who beat him to form a unity government with him so he could still be in power. If Benny Gantz does that, I will throw up my hands in defeat and horror. So we'll see. It is still shaking out. If you start feeling queasy, you're paying attention. Yeah, how did that war in Iraq go for us? How about let's make war on the country next to them, Iran, which has twice the population and a much larger and sophisticated military. Yeah, let's do that and see how that one works out. It brings us to, and I've heard this quote more than once in the last few days, something that Robert Gates, remember him? It's hard, I know, but I swear he was somebody very recently. Like somebody high up. Robert Gates, we go through them so fast now, I can't quite place him. Robert Gates was somewhere in that intelligence area. I can't quite place him in the proper position. Anyway, Robert Gates, he was a defense secretary. That's it. He was defense secretary. Robert Gates once said that Saudi Arabia has a plan, and that plan is to fight the Iranians to the last American soldier. That's it. That's it. And we'll recall that the President of the United States was tweeting out just a day or so ago that he was awaiting sort of orders and instructions from the kingdom, that'd be Saudi Arabia, of when they might want some help. The U.S. military is now and Trump made a big thing about the Saudis pay cash. They don't ask to use our military and then not pay. And in fact, they pay cash. The president said that. He's impressed by cash payments. Now, all of this suggests that the Saudis may see, and the President of the United States may agree, that the U.S. military can be bought and paid for by another country. I think the word would be mercenary. So Trump is turning the U.S. military into mercenaries that work on behalf of this murderous, repressive, repulsive nation. And every one of those words I stand by. So, who is this? Christoph. I guess Nicholas Christoph says this today in a column. Yes, Iran is a threat to international security, but so is Saudi Arabia. It is, lest we forget, Saudi Arabia that in the rather recent past kidnapped the prime minister of Lebanon. Do you remember that? He did. I mean, he did. It did. But that was the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. They kidnapped the prime minister of a neighboring country. They started a horrific war in Yemen that has created a humanitarian crisis of huge proportion, which is not getting covered much at all in American media. Well, we needn't even get into Khashoggi, right? Saudi Arabia also, of course, murdered and dismembered and a resident of the United States and a columnist for the Washington Post. And we did nothing about any of this. And now we're talking about sending American men and women potentially to die for this regime. You gotta be effing kidding me. I mean, if the crown prince, the blood-thirsty crown prince, who, what did we say the other day, just crucified, beheaded, put heads on spikes. I mean, this is like beyond medieval horror. There's a woman now, a human rights Saudi Arabian woman who's been tortured, sexually assaulted, being held in prison. She's been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, but that's how the Saudis look to her. They told her they'd let her out if she denied being tortured. And this amazing woman said, "No, thank you. I'll stay." These are the people that we're willing to shed American blood for? So, okay, I agree with Pompeo that what Iran did is an act of war. They bombed another country. Well, then let those two countries deal with it. Not our fight. And not our fight, nor, Christoph says, should it be the graveyard of any American soldier. This is a struggle between two awful regimes, both intent on destabilizing the Middle East. Did I say destabilizing the Middle East? I mean, the Middle East has been destabled since I've been alive. And, but, so that's happening. Now, you got all of that, and the big story is the one we really don't know much about, which has to do with this whistleblower. Somebody who, at some risk to themselves, somebody in the intelligence community who was so freaked out by what he either heard or learned, unclear, but it apparently, and this is from reporting from the Washington Post, also confirmed by NBC, and others now really digging into this story. The complaint is that our president, while speaking on the telephone to an unnamed foreign leader, the number one suspect being Vladimir Putin, of course, that Trump made a promise to that foreign leader that was so astonishing to this person in the Intelligence Committee that he filed a whistleblower complaint. Anybody who does a whistleblower complaint at that level is risking everything. Now, the two big elements here is that you have potentially something done by the President of the United States, something promised, something said, that so freaked out a person whose entire life has been spent trying to secure America's security, that he went directly to the Inspector General, I believe. I'm trying to get these. Inspector General of National Security, and lodged the complaint. Now, once the Inspector General gets a complaint like this, by the way, this guy's name is Michael Atkinson. He is an appointee of Donald Trump. Michael Atkinson, the Intelligence Committee's Inspector General, gets this whistleblower complaint on his desk. And he freaked out. He said, this is a matter of, quote, urgent concern. This is a Trump appointee, a matter of urgent concern. Now, there are rules, regulations, laws, and the law says that when the Inspector General finds a matter of urgent concern to the national security, that automatically, legally, the Congress of the United States has to be notified. It only makes sense. We have a government. It's made up of 3 equal branches that are supposed to work in tandem. So the Inspector General obviously alerts the head of National Intelligence, Director of National Intelligence, and says, we've got to inform the Congress. And it's the Director of National Intelligence who never forwarded it back to the Inspector General, who said, this is a matter of urgent concern. He is, as I speak, testifying behind closed doors to the House Intelligence Committee. We're not going to find out what is said in there. The Director of National Intelligence, the acting Director of National Intelligence is supposedly supposed to testify in an open session next week. I doubt it. What do we know about this White House? it's going to stonewall, especially since it is clear that what is being the source of alarm here is the president himself. And a promise he made to a foreign leader. Who knows? Putin, Kim Jong-un, one of his despotic pals, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So I'm still trying to understand this. You have Congress now freaking out and saying that the acting director of national intelligence is illegally withholding this whistleblower complaint from the Congress, who by law should already have been alerted to it, it having been deemed to be an urgent matter by the Inspector General, who received the whistleblower report. As we have seen time and time again with this administration, they refuse to acknowledge that Congress even exists. Lewandowski ridiculing them to their face. The Trump administration breaks the laws of our country with such alacrity. It is just mind-blowing, and nothing happens. What's supposed to happen, of course, is impeachment. But, guys, even we're a year away about from the election. The impeachment process would take longer than that, and it wouldn't result in a conviction. And so I don't know if we are going to be able to survive this year. Because as has been noted, this is a president who has gotten rid of anybody who even raises an eyebrow around him. Milton has sent me something. This is the timeline here. On July 28th, the Director of National Intelligence resigned. He was pushed out. That would be former Congressman Dan Coates. He was actually, he was actually somebody who was serious about doing the job, which of course means he would be gone, because he didn't understand his job was to kiss Trump's ass and agree with everything he said. So he resigned under pressure because he was freaked out about Russian interference in our elections. And that was a no-no with Trump. You're not supposed to talk about that because it made him feel like he didn't really win the election. All right, that's July 28th. Coates resigns. July 31st, Trump has a phone call with Putin. 1 week later, the ambassador to Russia, John Huntsman, resigns. Something's going on here that is forcing people who were trying to serve this administration to say, that's it. I'm out. Okay. So you have John Huntsman, our ambassador to Russia, which means we don't have an ambassador to Russia now, I bet. Do we? Well, whoever we have is acting. The next day, the deputy director of national intelligence resigns. Who's running our country? Vladimir Putin? August 12th. The whistleblower report. urgent concern relating to a promise Trump made to a foreign leader. Now, this timeline is making assumptions that all of these leavings and resignings and resignations are reacting to something that happened in that July 31st phone call. August 12th, the whistleblower report comes out. August 24th, Trump lobbies the G7 to let Russia back in. August 28th, Trump withholds military aid from Ukraine, which would be something that Vladimir Putin would very much appreciate. September 18, that'd be yesterday, the White House states that the president can declassify anything he wants to foreign leaders. As I said, if you're paying attention, it's hard not to suspect the worst. That we really do have essentially a Manchurian candidate as the President of the United States. Beholden to, blackmailed by, what? Vladimir Putin, former KGB operative. Wow. Is our caller still there? No? Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, God. And just two little items. This has been reported in a few places. Some white supremacist website is now actively making a list of all Jews. Sort of like being on Nixon's enemy list. I hope I'm on it. Although lists like this don't usually end well. 367 channels of Telegram, which is, who the hell knows, an app, are gathering names of known Jews, anywhere from Jews in government, Jews in media, activists, to regular, ordinary old Jews who might just be commenting on something somewhere and identifying themselves as a Jew. That, for no particular reason. I guess the guy behind that is somebody that the shooter here at Tree of Life actively corresponded with prior to his murderous rampage. And just this, for fun or nightmares. The United States Navy this week acknowledged that 3 videos that apparently were published by the New York Times depict unidentified flying objects. In a statement, the Navy spokesman said, quote, "The Navy considers the phenomena depicted in these videos as unidentified," which means they don't have a clue what they are. The oldest of the 3 was shot in 2004. The other 2 were taken in January of 2015. Normally what the military says is they say, it's a drone, it's a balloon, it's this. They didn't this time. They said, we don't know what it is. I'm just saying. Or whatever. Ay, God almighty. And then I just want to quickly say something about this little Swede, Greta Thunberg, who took a sailboat over here to talk to the United Nations and to the Congress. She's this 16-year-old kid who's a real environmentalist trying desperately to raise alarm, creating a movement of student boycotts, kids walking out of schools. Boy, she's a piece of work. She doesn't want the limelight, so she comes here and she keeps stepping back and asking the American young people who have joined her fight, you go, you stand up, this is for you. So she's here to sort of raise their profiles. She appeared on the Daily Show, and Trevor Noah asked her, geez, I mean, so you crossed in a sailboat. This was obviously a way of saying, I'm not going to pollute the environment going to the United States. So it took her God knows how long. She comes in a sailboat, and it was it wasn't a sailboat. I was wrong. It was a solar-powered yacht. But it took her 2 weeks. And he asked her what it was like to finally see land again and to come into New York Harbor. And you know what she said? It was indescribable. The smell. What hit her coming into New York was not, oh, look, there's the Statue of Liberty, or, oh, look, there's America, New York City. What hit her was stench from, I guess, our garbage. And then when she spoke to members of the Senate the other day, they were praising her left and right and center, and she said this to him: please save us your praise. We don't want it. We're here. No, don't invite us here to tell us how inspiring we are. Do something. Wow. And she also said yesterday to another congressional committee, I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the scientists. I like this kid. Okay, so I think that's it. I see Christopher Rawson here, and we want to bring him in. Chris? He looks like such an old-timey print reporter. It's a riot. He wears a fedora. He's got his back turned. Amy, can you go get him? Or at least flag him down. And he's scribbling in it. Oh, God. He's a character. Excuse me while I get into my... yeah, again, ending on something a little bit lighter for you.
Hey, kid.
Mr. Rawson, we're on.
We're on. Okay.
We're on.
So
So you come right here. You got to
there.
sit right next to
Oh,
me.
you even give me a microphone.
Of course, I give you a microphone. How are you going to hear? Now, this will sync. It'll sync. Bring you down to my level.
It's a trap. Hi, Lynn.
Hi. I was looking at you out there, and
Yeah.
you were like scribbling in your reporter
No,
notebook.
I was thinking of all the things I have to do. I'm the producer of this.
I know you
damn
are.
Show, and
But
that
you
means
looked like, with your fedora, you look like just this classic old-timey
old-timey
newspaper man. No, you did.
Well, newspaper man. I mean, that's a sad story, isn't it?
God almighty.
Let's not spend a lot of time on it, but it is one of the subjects of this year's Off the Record show.
Right.
Yeah.
Christopher Rawson is the producer of this marvelous show, Off the Record, which I've been mentioning to you and suggesting that you treat yourself to it. Christopher Rawson used to be, I suppose, a lot of things.
Yeah, no,
But
that's true. Emeritus this, senior that. I took a buyout at the Post-Gazette. For 25 years, I'd been the theater critic. there, and they were, slimming down the staff, which means getting rid of the old folks. And I took a buyout at a good time, actually. But I've continued as senior theater critic, so I actually review 2 or 3 times a month. Keep my hand in.
On a contractual kind of
I get paid
independent
by the piece, and that's really not so important to me as to help my successor, Sharon Eberson, really cover Pittsburgh theater, because the paper has been less interested in arts coverage, but Sharon, bless her, is working night and day to get theater news in the paper, both in the printed version, oh dear, as it's disappearing.
which is down to just 3.
Well, it will
days.
be, next week, 2 weeks from now. So we talk about that at Off the Record. But Sharon's getting a lot of stuff online, and so I fill in for her on a weekend where there's 3 or 4 theater openings. I do some of them, And the other job I had for 50 years, if you can believe it, Lynn, but you've been around for 50 years or more.
I've been around, but not here.
Well, for 50
Quite.
years, I was a professor in the English department at Pitt, and I finally, a year ago, retired there. 50 was a nice round number.
Wow.
Yeah. So I produce this show each year, and this is Off the Record XIX. Now, you're a smart woman, so what's that mean?
The XIX would be 19. Although if you gave me the Super Bowl numbers, I'd have a little more trouble.
Well,
doing it.
that's funny you say that, because the first year we did it, which was 2001, actually a month after 9/11, when we decided, we need to laugh at something.
Yeah.
We just called it Off the Record. The second year, we thought, we need something to distinguish that. And I said, we're as important as the Super Bowl, so we'll use Roman numerals. And we've used, which is sort of funny, Roman numeral 2, Off the Record 2. And we always have a subtitle. This year is Heaven Help Us, which I'll explain in a minute. But so here we are at number 19, and I like to say that although the Super Bowl has a larger number, the difference between Off the Record and the Super Bowl is that Pittsburgh always has it off the record.
Yes. There's the funniest line here. I don't know who wrote this, but it says that this is a one night only event that stars professional actors, some rank hams, and a few real people, which is so true.
Well,
sums it up.
Everybody fits in different categories, of course. You yourself,
once.
You acted in it once.
And I did a pre-buttal.
And you were a pre-buttal. We used to, in the early years, the idea was this was like the old gridiron shows where the media made fun of the politicians and then vice versa. But we broadened it out. We make fun of, culture generally, news and newsmakers of the previous year. But for some years, we would allow a couple of people who were made fun of in the show to come, and after the show, continuing on, make fun of the media. But I have to tell you, the show was so good, and the post-buttalists, the rebuttalists,
not
were
so good,
limp that we decided we'd put them on beforehand and call it a pre-buttal. And then there was the year Lynn Cullen came on and talked for 15 minutes before she even got to her script. I exaggerate slightly.
I don't have any recollection. None at all. You had pitted me against Fred Hansberger.
I think we had to give you the hook, Lynn. No, I mean, what you did was great. And I have to say that you and your audience are right in the wheelhouse for Off the Record, because although our satire tries to cut both ways, the people who write it, who primarily Gary Rothstein, who just
took a buyout himself.
Right, from the Post-Gazette.
Yeah.
Gary looks like a very calm, or even dour individual in person, but he is a hoot on the page. And then the songs, we steal melodies from famous songs, and borrow, I should say, and people write new lyrics for them, and those are people who work for the Post-Gazette.
And some of them are just brilliant. I mean, just brilliant.
So let me just say something about this year's plot to
I love it.
Quit people's interest, because it's 2 weeks from, I don't know.
It is, yes, 2 weeks from today.
Yes.
Well, we can't say this enough. October 3rd.
Yeah,
the show
Thursday,
is at
October 3rd.
8. You can get your we've got it linked on from our Facebook page. and you can eat and mingle prior to the
Right. We have the Byam Theater downtown has this great big lobby, and our beneficiary is the food bank.
Right.
We raise $30,000 to $60,000 each year. For
What
the
is
food
the
bank.
money is really accumulated to?
Yeah, we're
what-
around 600,000. In the early years, we didn't do our bookkeeping wasn't as accurate as it might have been. So we also give a little money to the union scholarship funds. It's primarily sponsored by the Newspaper Guild, which is the writers and artists at the Post-Gazette. It's not sponsored by the Post-Gazette, although they usually give us some ad space. But it's the it's the union who works
It's
at the
the
Post-Gazette,
union who's-
which is
right.
in
Yeah.
having a battle with the Post-Gazette over their contract right now. That union, and then SAG-AFTRA, which is TV, radio, and film actors.
Right.
And so the Post-Gazette people and former Post-Gazette people like me primarily write it and produce it and so on. And the actors, professional actors in town, but as it says there, some celebrities, hams, and real people fill in the cast.
Now, just speaking of real people,
Yeah.
last year I was dumbfounded when Edgar Snyder showed up.
Edgar Snyder
Oh, God.
playing playing Governor Wolf,
Yes.
who he actually looks like.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I think Wolf has said something about
Yeah.
looking like Edgar
Yeah,
Snyder.
so Edgar Snyder was able to point at the audience as Governor Wolf and say, "We want money from you." Tax money, of course. So this year's show, we imagine a catastrophe, a tsunami. This is sort of based on all the rain earlier in the year. Mount Washington falls on the city. Just about everyone is killed.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, no, we start in
It's
a
a
cheery way.
lighthearted-
Right. And
We're all dead.
and then people who preside over these things have to decide among the newly dead who gets to go to Pittsburgh, heaven, hell, or Kaufman's. Kaufman's is what we call limbo because, of course,
'Cause it's-
Kaufman's is there, and it was called Macy's, and what is it now? And,
I can't. I went by it the other day. I thought, oh, my God.
oh, it's so sad.
Oh,
So we have Fred Rogers presiding over heaven.
as well he should.
He's not God. There's another person who is God. I'm not going to tell you who in Pittsburgh is actually the character that God is.
So Fred is more
assuming.
like St. Peter.
Exactly. He mans the gate, as it were, and then.
But he'd let everybody in.
Well, that's the problem, and God has to. No, you put your finger on a plot point. God has to stiffen his background.
Okay.
And then, in fact, God decides to bring in a woman to help Fred because it's been run by men for too long.
Hey. All right.
So, and then Hell is run by Henry Clay Frick because Hell is based at the Clairton Coke Works, which is closest we could get to a vision of Hell, all the flames.
And they're poisoning us. It's why I'm like this all the
And then the Kaufman's Limbo, sort of the sorting area,
Yeah, who
is
oversees that?
run by Elsie Hillman and Sophie Maslow. and so people go through that, and the plot narrows down. A plot in an off-the-record show is just an excuse to have
the songs, right.
the songs and scenes on anything you want. I mean, we have a
right.
Josh Bell scene. We have a, et cetera.
You go with the flow.
Right. So it
Yeah.
narrows down in the end to three prime villains. Will they avoid the Clairton Coke Works?
Well, I sure as hell hope not.
Well, that's
Because one of them damn well better be
who?
Jeffrey Romo.
You got it. That's one of the
All
three.
right.
Can you
Burn him.
Okay. Can you make a guess? We should have gotten you in on the story conferences
Who would
early
the other?
on.
Okay, just
Who
three.
are the other? Yeah,
The
just
most
three. And we
horrible-
are not, I have to say, although it's off the record and we can be edgy and the satire can actually cut, but there are some things we wouldn't touch. We've never touched the clerical abuse of minors, the sex abuse among the church. We're not saying anything about Tree of Life. I mean, there are some things that are really
You can't
beyond
do-
satiric
yeah.
commentary. However, there are villains available
I'm trying to
us.
think.
Well, one of us is very close to home for those of us at the Post-Gazette. It is Mr. Block, J.R. Block.
Oh!
The
I love it. The publisher of their their employer.
And then the other one.
I don't suppose he'll be in the audience.
Well, friends of his will be. I'm sure he'll hear about it. He's come once or twice over the years, and I will say that the Post-Gazette is helpful to us. It gives us ad space, et cetera. And David Shribman, always enjoyed it. He believed
late of the paper.
But let me tell you that our beneficiary is the food bank, and the actors all act for free, and they do it because they're giving back to the community. They're helping to raise money, and a lot of sponsors come on and give $1,000 or $2,000. But for my mind, we don't really do it to raise money for the food bank. That's the excuse.
What do we do it for?
We do it because it's healthy to laugh at Pittsburgh. We don't want other people to do it.
No.
But we want to do it. So the third villain I think, will be a popular villain. I'm getting so angry at him.
Who is
right across the river, he has a great big facility there that we paid for. Bob Nutting.
Oh, Nutting.
Yeah, the owner of the Pirates.
Yeah, the owner of the Pirates.
Right. So
he's easy.
They are characters in our show, as are Mayor Peduto and Chelsea Wagner and a whole bunch of other
Chelsea,
people.
you doing the Michigan?
We have a
Detroit.
reference. Yes, we have a scene that kind of spins off the Michigan thing, and the cops come and want to arrest her. And, I don't want to give away too much of the show.
But it's so good for for you guys to know how because you're news junkies, would so love this show if you have never treated yourself. And there are tickets as low as...
Well, the tickets start at $80 because we are raising money for the food bank. 80,
right.
50, and 30. And I have to tell you, the $30 tickets aren't very good. I mean, they're way up in the balcony at the Byam. I mean, you're there, you can hear, you can see, but I would, if you're...
You wouldn't want those.
Well, I wouldn't. But I'm used to sitting in good seats because I'm a theater critic.
I am too.
I have to say, by the way, so you buy tickets through the Cultural Trust because the Byam Theater is a Cultural Trust theater, and their phone number
456-666-666-666.
And the Cultural Trust website. I just want to say, tickets are selling pretty well. I have about 250 tickets on my dining room table right now because I'm the producer and I've pulled those out of the pile for the patrons and the sponsors and so on. Over the next few days, I allocate those. And what
Do you feel like God?
I feel like a drudge, actually. But and I keep back a few, and for the cast members to get tickets for their friends and so on. But usually, about this weekend, I put 40 or 50 good tickets back, and I was looking back into the pile for sale.
For sale.
Because I've taken out more than I need. I don't know that yet, but. I say that because if you go on the Trust website and you look at that seating map at the Byam, you'll see that the really good tickets are pretty
look like they're all gone.
Yeah, but some of them are going to go back. So if you're interested in a ticket and you buy your ticket that way, you go and look at the website, and you don't see something you're used to, a really good ticket, a really good $80 ticket.
They should wait for
you try back in a few days because you never know.
Throw them
more tickets may appear.
See, people, this is something that pisses me off.
No, there's something that pisses you off. Oh, tell us, Lynn.
Theatrical events. Say, a show is coming. So you go online, and the seats are gone within 2 seconds.
Are you talking about the big Broadway tours?
Like those. I don't even bother.
Yeah. See,
what is
it's true.
that?
More and more. Well, this is really another conversation.
All right, but it really
you should have me on sometime
we'll talk
just to talk about Pittsburgh theater and the economics of Pittsburgh theater and
let's.
How the range of theaters we have in town. I mean, we're really fortunate.
I went to something totally different last night.
What?
The Magic.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I just heard about it, yeah.
It was.
You were amazed.
I was amazed. Just like, you walk out like, well, how the hell?
Lynn is now making a face that betokens amazement.
Yeah.
If you can imagine.
That's right. Oh, you know what we haven't mentioned that I always think is the greatest thing of the night?
Ken Rice. Yeah. Yeah, everybody, listen, folks out there, if you are used to seeing Ken Rice as an anchorman on TV with his uni eyebrow, but his very kind of straightforward reporting the news demeanor, he lets loose it off the record. He's our MC, and he starts the night, and for the month beforehand, he's trying jokes out on all his friends because he can let his hair down, as it were,
Oh, he's funny.
because it's off the record. The show is never reviewed. Every mayor since Murphy has been on the show one way or another,
right.
and some of them, Ravenstall dropped the F-bomb a few times, and but you can do that because it's not, I mean, it's public.
No, yeah, and
it's public, but it's a special occasion.
Exactly right. But Ken Rice,
We did it.
He's just incredible.
Yeah, he's really good. We say, Ken, no more than 10 minutes, and he usually gives us about 8. And then our pre-buttalists this year are 2. Steve Blass is going to come on. And
Pirate, former.
He is
funny.
He is very funny. And he called me and he said, am I allowed to say this? Would you censor me if I said that? I said, no, Steve,
censor.
you could do what you want because it's off the record. And the second pre-buttalist is actually going to be a short thing. We're honoring Richard Rao, who is this magnificent philanthropist of Pittsburgh theater who's actually has the Rao name on 7 or 8 theaters around town. He's given so much money. So we're going to honor him in the off-the-record way, which is a mixture of affection and irony.
And skewering.
Yeah. Right.
Well, he's open to skewering.
Absolutely. Richard's a very funny guy.
Yeah.
He's a professional curmudgeon.
Yes.
He will enjoy the things we will say about him. And then it is on to the show. The show itself is about an hour and a quarter long. So the whole evening is maybe an hour and 3/4, something like that. And as you say, it starts in the lobby. We open the lobby at 6:30, and there's food.
There's food, and there's bars.
There's bars. You have to pay for the drinks, but the food is free. And it turns out to be a really good party. It gets very full by 7:30 when we open the door to the theater, and people stream in. I say that a cash bar, allowing people to have a couple of drinks in them, makes the show a much better show.
I absolutely concur. I mean, I oil up a little bit before.
No,
the
it's
show.
not necessary. The show is funny whether or not you've had a couple of drinks.
That is true. That is true. You have, and other people have said, Gary has said, Rawson, who writes this, that he always hears me laughing louder than anybody else.
What a surprise, Lynn. I mean, it's not like you don't have a distinctive laugh. Well, you know what I love about the response, because it's a generally hip audience, people who know something about the news. It's really a mixed audience of news junkies, political junkies. We always get a lot of people from Grant Street because they like to see how much fun we're making of the mayor or city council.
They, and I bet they're miffed if they don't get skewered,
it's sort of an honor to be there. But you also
skewered.
get theater fans, and so it's a real mix. So when there's a joke on stage, you'll hear part of the audience gets it.
That's true.
Or there's one joke that only one person laughs at. So it's a wonderful mix of response.
So this sounds like a good one. I don't know how he
heaven
comes up
help
with
us.
Heaven help us.
Which
and
is
God
really-
knows that's the truth.
Exactly. And although we cannot solve Pittsburgh's problems off the record, we can allow us to laugh at ourselves and put a little money in the food bank's pocket.
I've seen some of you have come up and introduced yourself to me over the years because you see me hanging in the lobby. And I sure hope more of you we'll do that because I sure as heck will be there. I have not missed a one.
Gosh, that's great. That's great. Good for you. I don't know how many people are in that highly desirable category.
Not a one, and I'll be there for 20. You're going to have to really.
Well,
pull out
we
the
are.
stops
We have
for
committed
20.
to 20 years. I don't know how long we can keep it going. I cannot tell you how much energy it takes. And
Well, I want to point that out too because one time I was somewhat in it with a very minor role. There are rehearsals, and all the people there put in so much effort and time.
and then it's gone.
And then it's poof,
It's like theater.
gone. And it just seems like, oh no.
But that makes it more precious, really. The fact that there it is, and you were part of it, and you shared with that audience, and it is, I have to say, a loving and forgiving audience, because in spite of all those rehearsals, there were always glitches. Sometimes
Oh, yes.
they're funnier than the script.
Well,
know.
that's true too. Anyway, I sure hope we've sold you because, well,
because it's
who doesn't have a good time there?
Right.
It's just wonderful.
That's
And
right. Unless
good
you
cause.
happen to be somebody who's really skewered, and then you have to put on a bold face and say, lovely to be here with all of you for the good of the food bank.
there you go. Christopher Rawson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, it's thank you for all the work you do for this.
That's fun.
It's fun. I think you said drudge a little while ago.
Oh, that was something else.
That was about
drudging
your dining room table. I don't know. Something
ticket
like that.
ticket allocation. Yeah, right.
Well, okay, so that's it, guys. Hey, I just want to point out we're gonna end a few minutes early because I gotta race out of here myself, and so you'll know my sister Susan, who's always on the show on Tuesdays, will be here in Poison next Tuesday. So right here where Rawson's sitting, and even my mom we might talk into coming too. She's 97, but like me.
Wow.
She's got a lot to say.
We could all aspire.
Yeah, we could. Anyway, you guys enjoy yourselves. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.